People's Radio United.
So cop watching is a relatively new phenomenon. About when did it start, and when did you see it really kind of gain ground as a movement? And when you look to the future, where do you think it's going? Do you see new technologies emerging that people should be watching that'll help and that sort of thing?
Well, I mean, the earliest that people really can trace active cop watching to is Berkeley in the 1980s. That's kind of where it started. I mean, people with really big video cameras or even just notepads and a pen, just writing down cops' names and squad car numbers, stuff like that. And it's transformed today to people with their cell phones or better video cameras. And I mean, I see it just growing more and more. People are waking up to the fact that there are police employees out there that are wreaking havoc in the cities, that are putting innocent people in jail, that are planting evidence like we've seen in Baltimore. That's been going on forever. I mean, people are waking up to the fact that there are tons of innocent people, rotting in cages because of bad actions of police employees who want to advance their careers, to look better, to feel needed. So I think the future just brings more and more people pulling out their cell phones when they see something going down. Like not too long ago here in Minneapolis, there was a police employee on a light rail questioning an individual about their citizenship status, which they can't. That's not part of their job. Thankfully, this individual was released from jail not too long ago. But that police employee's wrong actions could have caused a person to have been deported. It's a lot of peaceful people ending up in cages over very minor things or even nothing, where the police employee will make up something. So I just see the future of cop watching is your average day citizen just pulling out their cell phone. I can think of just tons of examples off the top of my head where it's just been a person with a cell phone that the cell phone evidence totally contradicted the police officer's story. And that's going to happen more and more. And the one good thing is it's somewhat flushing out the bad cops, but it is keeping everybody accountable. There's an objective record now, which we didn't have years ago. I mean, like I said, back in the 80s in Berkeley with the big cameras, those things cost thousands of dollars. It was very hard for the average person to have a video camera. Nowadays, just about everybody does right in their pocket, which is absolutely wonderful. And I don't know, I see the future more live streaming, more off-site storage of footage. I personally use a program called Bambuser, Bambuser, to live stream my stuff because it keeps it at an off-site storage that the police cannot access. You can set it to go fully live or just so you can see it. And I do that just in case and I also recommend this for other people to do, in case your cell phone is taken as, quote, evidence or destroyed by a police officer, or if you end up in jail. If you end up in jail and you need that footage right away, you can give your attorney your username and password to the Bambuser website, and they can pull up the video. Where if it was just stored on your cell phone, they could take out the memory card, destroy your cell phone, throw it in the river, whatever like that, and then it's just your word against theirs. So I think live streaming is going to be the next big paradigm shift in cop watching.
Now, drones are becoming something that's becoming much more affordable, and the run times on the cameras are longer. I've heard people talk about drones. I mean, I see upsides and downsides. What do you think of drones, using drones for cop watching? I mean, I can think of one obvious advantage. You're not in the physical proximity of a cop, but any thoughts on all these video drones that are being made now?
You know, there's positives and negatives to that. The biggest negative that I can think of offhand is the cost. I mean, I can't afford a drone, and I don't think most people could afford a drone, especially a good drone. Second of all is the noise with the drone. You can't get too close to hear what they're saying because the rotors on the drone are pretty loud. I've had some experience with drones when I worked with a couple people, David Witt and God, what's his name? Out of St. Louis, We Cop Watch, and you can check them out at wecopwatch.org. They have a drone that I got to play with, and yeah, you can't get too close to the action with that drone. But it's great for overhead views. I think more people will start getting drones for cop watching, but it will be used more as an overview than an actual, capturing what's going on up close, voices, stuff like that. But yeah, I definitely think that's going to become more of a normality in the coming years.
So, in your opinion, drones are more useful for maybe flying over a protest and kind of capturing more large-scale movements, or being a supplemental camera to somebody on the ground,
Definitely.
getting... Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You mentioned about... police and their body cameras, and how a lot of times they turn them off or they don't document something. We had Michelle Gross on here, who you work with a lot because she's the president of Communities United Against Police Brutality, and she pointed out something that I actually really saw played out on a YouTube video as well, and that's that even when cops have their body cameras on, they show what the person is, they show the person's reaction. They don't show what the person may be reacting to. And I saw a thing, I think it was in Phoenix, where cops had this homeless guy and he was naked. So he was obviously in some kind of distress. And they were talking to him and telling him, let us help you, come on up, and so he did. And then when he got up there, and we're watching this through the cop's body camera, and when he got up there, they were like telling him, put your hands up or put your hands on your head. I can't remember, but I was like, okay, so, and I saw him and he was starting to cooperate with them. And then all of a sudden, his eyes got wide, and he took his hands down and said no, and refused to. And so they sicked a dog on him, and the dog just mauled the hell out of him, this naked guy, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember, like, he was down, and he was definitely... He had definitely had enough, and they just let the dog keep going, which was just awful. But the main thing was, I saw the guy's eyes get wide. To me, it indicates the officer took a threatening stance, that the situation was de-escalating, and the officer made a gesture or took a stance, maybe raised up his shotgun or whatever. Something, that guy saw something that scared the hell out of him, and we will never know what it was because the only camera we have was on the guy, not on that cop.
Right, yeah, and I mean, it would be great to know what else transpired there, what scared the guy. Without a camera pointing at the police employee, we don't know. And that's a great argument of why cop watch is needed, why someone with just pointing a camera or a cell phone could change the outcome of that.
Right. And, like you said, it's an objective record. I mean, aren't cops telling us all the time, what are you afraid of if you have nothing to hide? Well, likewise, what are they afraid of if they have nothing to hide? On the People's Weekly, we had Pastor Mac V made a really good point that, when he's preaching, when he's doing his job, he wants cameras on him because he's confident he's going to do a good job, and he wants to be seen doing a good job. And if cops are doing their job the right way, why wouldn't they want to be seen doing their jobs the right way? But oftentimes that's not true, which we'll get into when we talk about how to protect yourself and know your rights. But that's a thing that's going on. Like people shouldn't take cop watching as an anti-cop thing, because if cops are doing their job right, you're not going to capture anything wrong.
Right. Yeah. To me, a good cop watching experience is one where I just delete the video, where nothing happens, where nobody's mistreated. I'd much rather have that than a viral YouTube video. I mean, the reason people cop watch is not just to capture bad cops doing bad things. It's to deter. If you have a camera pointed at you, you're much less likely to engage in misconduct that might end up on the 5 o'clock news. Just having a camera there could totally diffuse the situation. There's plenty of times where I walked up with a camera and cops have just left just because they just don't want that attention. They don't want their mistakes recorded, so their easiest way out of it is just to leave.
Right. And I like what you said about it being a deterrent. Not only does it help people who've been victimized, but it does stop bad behavior. It does stop people from being victimized. There's a lot of that going on now, where Tim can tell you about countless times where, he goes out and he cop watches, and he's had cops doing stuff, and then suddenly they see him, and the cop will nudge his partner, and suddenly they're talking differently. Tim talked about how he put cameras in his car because in LA cops harass activists. In Minneapolis, you guys kind of have that figured out. You've got it where cops really just don't want to harass you. But in LA, it's a completely different thing. Cops are not afraid to harass activists, and they harass the hell out of them. They harass the hell out of Tim all the time. He's getting pulled over, and he's getting harassed, and he's had them come up to his car and start doing the cocky shit that they do to intimidate him. And all of a sudden they see the cameras in his car, and their demeanor completely changes.
Right.
I'm right about that, right, Tim? Like, that's happened a lot with you.
Yeah, or they'll shine the light on me and try to get me to leave. The last time I was telling you about was kind of the oddest, because he assumed, like you said, I was trying to get some kind of viral video. And he's like, and they left the lady alone and walked away, and I was live streaming. It was on Twitter. He's like, sorry you didn't get anything good. And I said, just what you said. I said, this is great. Everyone walked away. She's safe. That's all I was here for. So, they have some twisted, and then the cops start telling me, I'm a YouTube sensation. I've been on YouTube so many times and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, definitely, as soon as the camera's on them, once they notice it, a lot of times they change, but they always notice the camera at one point, and they have to tell their partner there's a camera. It's like, why? Why do you have to tell them? If you're good cops, because all cops are good cops, right? Why do you care if there's a camera? Why do you have to inform your partner there's a camera? And that always just blows my mind. And it's every single time, almost without exception.